Have you ever noticed that we only truly begin to live when we look directly at the one thing everyone avoids? Death is not the end of life, it's the beginning of it, and you're afraid of precisely what could set you free. Think with me. Since you were born, you learned to build walls against pain, against uncertainty, against the unknown. And the biggest of these walls was erected around death. You were taught not to talk about it, not to think about it, to pretend it doesn't exist, as if ignoring it could make it disappear. But while you avoid looking at death, something far more dangerous happens. You also avoid looking at life, because truly living requires you to accept that all of this is temporary, that each breath is borrowed, that each moment is unique and irretrievable. The Stoic philosophers of ancient Rome already knew this. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations that meditating on death wasn't morbid, it was the path to wisdom. He said that whoever understands they can die at any moment lives with an intensity others will never experience, because when you know time is finite, you stop wasting it, you stop postponing dreams, you stop saving words of love for later, you stop living on autopilot, just repeating days that all look the same. The truth is you've already died thousands of times and didn't even notice. The child you were died so the teenager could emerge. The teenager died so the adult could arise. Every version of you that ever existed is dead now. And yet, you're still here, still breathing, still feeling, still choosing. Death isn't something that happens just once at the end. It's a constant companion, shaping you with each transformation. But we've been conditioned to see death as the enemy. Modern Western culture has built such a deep denial that we hide the dying in hospitals, apply makeup to the dead so they look alive, create euphemisms to avoid saying the word death. We say someone passed away, departed, is at rest, as if using different terms could soften reality. And in this desperate escape, we lose something precious, the capacity to live authentically. Because if you can't look at the end, you also can't see the beginning. You can't value the middle. You're trapped in an illusion of permanence, believing there will always be a tomorrow to do what matters. But what if I told you that the wisest cultures in the world have always known otherwise? In Mexico, the Day of the Dead isn't a sad occasion. It's a celebration. Families dance, laugh, eat alongside the altars of those who departed. In Tibetan Buddhism, monks meditate in cemeteries, sitting among the dead, to understand impermanence. Japanese samurais practice the concept of death before dishonor, not because they were morbid, but because they understood that fully accepting death was what made them fearless in life. They lived each day as if it were their last, and because of that, they lived with a fullness that we modern Westerners only dream of achieving. So here's the question you need to ask yourself. If you knew you had only 1 year to live, what would change? Who would you talk to? What would you let go of? What conversations would you finally have? What trip would you take? What forgiveness would you grant? And now, the most important question. Why aren't you living like that now? Because the truth is, you don't know if you have a year, a month, or just one more day. None of us know. Death can come at any moment, but you live as if you were immortal. You postpone, you wait, you believe there will always be time. You save your best version for a future that may never arrive. And meanwhile, life slips through your fingers like sand. Every second that passes is a second you'll never get back. You feel it, don't you? That tightness in your chest when you realize another year has passed and you're still postponing your dreams. That sense of emptiness when you're lying down at night wondering if you're really living or just existing. That silent fear that in the end you'll look back and realize you spent your whole life preparing to live but never actually lived. You're not alone in this. We all feel it. It's the human condition. But few have the courage to look directly at this fear and ask, what is it trying to teach me? Because the fear of death, when you really examine it, isn't fear of death itself. It's fear of dying without having lived. It's fear of reaching the end and realizing you wasted the most precious gift you ever received. the gift of being alive now. If this idea has already resonated with you, imagine what comes next. Subscribe to this channel because this journey is just beginning and you won't want to miss what's ahead. So let's go deeper. Death isn't just a reminder that we should live better. It's the very source of life. Think about nature. For a tree to grow, a seed must die. For a butterfly to fly, the caterpillar must completely dissolve inside the cocoon. For you to breathe, cells die every second in your body, being replaced by new ones. Death isn't the opposite of life. It's an integral part of it. Life and death aren't opposing forces. They're dances of the same energy. And when you understand this, something shifts inside you. You stop resisting. You stop trying to control the uncontrollable. You stop living with so much fear of losing that you forget to enjoy what you have. The philosopher Socrates, moments before being executed, said something extraordinary to his disciples. He said he had spent his entire life practicing death. His students were confused. What do you mean, practicing death? And Socrates explained, practicing death is learning to let go. It's releasing the ego, the illusions, the fears. It's dying to everything that isn't essential, so you can live only with what truly matters. This is revolutionary, because it means you don't have to wait for the end to live intensely. You can practice small deaths every day. You can let the version of you that clings to what no longer serves die. You can let toxic relationships die, limiting beliefs, social roles you assumed but that aren't really you. Every time you let go of something, you die a little. And every time you die, you're born freer, lighter, more alive. But here's the secret few realize. Society doesn't want you to understand this. Because a person who accepts death is a person who can't be controlled by fear. And fear is the most powerful control tool that exists. You're led to fear losing your job, so you accept conditions that kill your soul. You're led to fear others, judgment, so you hide who you really are. You're led to fear being alone, so you remain in relationships that diminish you. All this fear is sustained by a single illusion, the illusion that you have control, that if you behave right, if you work hard, if you follow the rules, you'll be safe, you'll live forever. But you won't, and no amount of security can change that. So what do you do when you realize you have no control? You can panic, or you can become completely free. You can understand that if you truly don't control anything, then you also don't need to carry the weight of trying to control everything. You can relax, you can trust, you can finally live. Zen masters have a saying, die before you die, and when you die, you will not die. It sounds paradoxical, but it's the deepest truth that exists. If you die to the ego now, if you release the identifications, the attachments, the illusions of control, when physical death comes, there will be no fear, because you'll have already died to everything that was illusory. What remains is only the essential, only the real, only you in your purest form. But there's an even deeper secret that few know. Death isn't just a teacher of how to live, it's the door to understanding who you really are. Because when you strip away everything that's temporary, when you imagine losing everything you possess, all your titles, your achievements, your body, your story, what's left? Who are you when you're no longer anything? This is the most frightening and most liberating question you can ask, and the answer can destroy everything you thought you knew about yourself. The truth is, you're not your thoughts. You're not your emotions. You're not your body, your profession, your memories. All of this will die. All of this is transitory. But there's something in you that witnesses all of this, a consciousness that's been here since you were born, a presence that observes your thoughts but isn't the thoughts, an essence that remains while everything changes. Mystics from all traditions point to this. They call it soul, essence, witness, being. The name doesn't matter. What matters is that when you touch this place inside you that was never born and will never die, fear disappears. Not because you convinced your mind of something, but because you directly experience that you are much more than this body, this mind, this story. And that's when everything changes. When you live from this place of eternal consciousness, death loses its power over you. Not because you believe in some religion or philosophy, but because you know, through direct experience, that the essence of who you are cannot die. The body goes, the mind goes, but you, the real you, remains. And when you understand this, not just intellectually, but viscerally, you're finally free. Free to love without fear of losing, free to create without fear of failing, free to live without fear of dying, because you realize death isn't the end of the journey. It's the door that was always there, waiting to show you who you really are. Death is the secret door to being alive, not because it scares you into living better, but because it shows you that you can never truly die. What you thought was you, that will die. And thank God for that, because underneath all these layers of fear, of ego, of identifications, there's a you that is pure, eternal, free. A you that has always been alive and always will be. A you that is reading these words now, feeling something awaken inside. This is the great revelation. Death isn't your enemy, it's your liberator. So stop running from it. Look at it. Meditate on it. Practice small deaths every day and watch what happens. Watch how life begins to pulse with more intensity, how colors become more vivid, how hugs become deeper, how you finally stop postponing and start living. Because in the end, and also in the beginning, there's only this moment, this now, this breath, and you finally awake to receive it. If you've made it this far, it's because something inside you recognized this truth. So don't keep this to yourself. Like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear this message. Subscribe to the channel because we'll continue exploring these truths that most don't have the courage to face. And leave in the comments, what would you do differently if you knew today was your last day? Death is waiting for you, not with fear, but with a promise. When you finally embrace it, you'll discover you've always been alive. You just didn't know it.